It's the Travers weekend edition of the First Call podcast. Express Bet and First Call representing here with Jeremy Plonk and Jeff Siegel. Jeff, Travers on Saturday, Charlestown Classic Friday. There's a lot of cool racing this weekend.
Yeah, and maybe some weather at Saratoga. We've been accustomed to that.
You think?
Possibly some rain. We'll see what happens there. Hopefully the track will be in good shape. We don't have any excuses for anybody. This is a championship race now. This is probably going to determine the Eclipse Award in the 3-year-old division.
Sure.
All 3 Triple Crown winners, and then you've got Forte. So that's going to be great. Really good racing. And I was looking at the Charlestown races Friday night and didn't realize Charlestown Oaks is $750,000.
Yes, they juiced the purse this year, and boy, did they. And they got a great field for it. The pink ribbon on the undercards got Society and some other good ones. I mean, this is the best card, probably top to bottom, they've ever had at Charlestown. We've seen some classics that have had some bigger names involved, Game On Dude and those kind who have come into town. But I think top to bottom, the card, this will be the best one they've ever run at Charlestown. And I've been going to Charlestown since I was knee-high to the rail. So when I say it's the best card they've ever run at Charlestown, I say it with some historical certainty.
Yes, you got that right. And I'm looking at it, and these are races that could fly at Saratoga just as easily.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Let's take a look at our lineup. We take you through 8 stakes races each week on the First Call podcast, and we will go to Charlestown for Friday night's action on the 25th. We'll look at the Charlestown Oaks and the Charlestown Classic. Just about $2 million in purses there between the two. And then on Saturday, 5 grade ones at Saratoga. If the Travers isn't enough, give me the Forgo for the sprinters, the Jerkins for the 3-year-old sprinters, the Ballerina for what really looks like the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Sprint. I mean, just a tremendous field there. And the Sword Dancer for the Turfers. Again, let's cross our fingers with what we have in terms of a grass condition. Also, then we will look at Saturday's feature in the Sprint Division out at Del Mar, the Pat O'Brien. So 8 races up. We hope to give you 8 winners and send you out happy playing this weekend. If you're playing with First Bet and Express Bet, we've got a couple tournaments I want to remind you about. This is week 6 of 6 in the Fun in the Sun weekly handicap contest. It's the last 5 races at Saratoga, the first 5 races at Del Mar each Saturday. Top 5 finishers in the weekly standings qualify for the final table, which will be next Saturday. And you're going to play for more than $15,000 in prize money in that final table. So a chance to play this weekend. It's $100 to play, $25 for the entry fee, $10 win bets on 10 races from Saratoga and Del Mar. And there's also the $800 Travers Challenge. Now, this is a tournament hosted by Monmouth Park on Travers Day. It's Monmouth and Saratoga races. Express Bet is one of the few places you can play it outside of being at Monmouth Park. So if you want to play this one online, the $800 Travers Challenge also available for tournament players on Saturday. A lot of chances to take a swing in a lot of traditional ways. We're going to have guaranteed pools in a lot of these wagers at the various tracks. And then we've got the tournament play as well. So a lot cooking on this coming Travers weekend. Friday night, Charlestown. Let's go to the Oaks, Jeff. Start things off, race number 10. It's a 7-furlong sprint at Charlestown. That's a 2-turn race around the bull ring there. They'll start kind of like you think the Kentucky Derby at the head of the stretch. And they'll make one small lap around the short bull ring oval at Charlestown for the 7-furlong sprint. That being said, it doesn't necessarily play like a 7-furlong race does for, a traditional racetrack where you might be on a chute on the backstretch and have one really long run to the turn. And you kind of think in a 7-furlong race versus a 6-furlong sprint, the closers kind of come into the mix a little bit more than we see at 3/4 of a mile. But at Charlestown, you want to have some speed. It never hurts to have speed on those tight turns. Inside posts are certainly at an advantage. And we've got a horse down on the rail, Jeff, that you like, I know, in here, Vava, who is very well drawn for the situation.
Yeah, on the rail, and she's got just enough speed to maintain her position. I don't think she's quick enough to be in front.
Right.
But as long as she's in the second flight, saving ground, ready to pounce, which is what she likes to do, I think Vava's in a really good spot here. Johnny V is going to I don't know how he's going to get there, whether he's maybe take a helicopter or something. I don't know. But bottom line is he'll be there to ride her. And for $750, I think I'd be there too. She's a major contender. I actually looked at another filly who's similar to her, undervalued asset. They actually ran against each other at Churchill 2 races back, and Vava prevailed. And then I thought Vava's race in the victory ride behind Maple Leaf Mel was good as well. So I think she's improving. The numbers are rising with every start. But her win at Churchill 2 races back in an allowance race, using the similar strategy that I think she's going to use here. That race was 6.5, close enough to be within range, and then give you a second move in the top of the stretch.
Let's take a look at that one with Travis Stone on the call.
Top of the stretch. Secret Statement comes off the turn, short lead. Unsung Melody gives way. Vava coming on, and so too is Undervalued Asset. There's 1 furlong to go. Vava's in front. Undervalued Asset trying to get by Vava. Vava's leads half a length. Undervalued Asset trying to push on by. Time running out. Vava digs in. Vava digs in to win.
So the Kentucky contingent back rematch from that race at Churchill. But the real Kentucky filly that people are going to be talking about, she's got the name Hoosier Filly, but she's been based in Kentucky. Jeff, she's got speed and she's turning back in distance. She almost wired the Black Eyed Susan. Then she did go all the way in that kind of elbow start, pseudo 2-turn race at Ellis Park in the Monomoy Girl and just looked awesome that day, beating Wet Paint. Now, Wet Paint came back and ran decent in the Coaching Club Oaks last time out, but maybe isn't the filly we thought she was. So is Hoosier Filly back after beating Wet Paint, or was that a situational deal? How do you like her in this spot?
Well, it was situational. She went the first quarter in 25 flat, going a mile, and she was all by herself. I mean, a lot of horses could have won that race given that kind of trip. The thing about Hoosier Filly, though, is it's a 2-turn race, as you mentioned, but it's really sort of a sprint. I mean, it is at 7 furlongs. Right. She's only raced 1 time in her life sprinting, and she won that. That was her debut. I mean, maybe she's one of these, and she's right into mischief. Maybe she always wanted to be better at 1 turn, but can win 2 turning when you give her the front end. And this is a 7 furlong race. There's enough speed in the race to make her work a little bit, not that much. But I wouldn't be surprised to see Hoosier Filly outclass this field. You know what I thought of her last year, and then been up and down. But I mean, she's still pretty good, and maybe backing up the 7/8 and maybe allowing her to show that speed that we know she has if she can shake loose early. You know, maybe she just keeps going. I would absolutely, if I were playing a rolling exotic like a pick 3 or pick 4, absolutely use her. And she's a major contender, 3-1.
Hoosier Filly's trainer Tom Amos has had success bringing horses to Charlestown over the years on this program and some of the others around the calendar. So he knows which ones might handle the bull ring and which ones may not. I think he's got a little experience there. So she's certainly significant in the entry box, Hoosier Filly, for the Charlestown Oaks. Let's go to the Charlestown Classic. It's race number 11 on the card, the second of our handicapping task here on this Friday night at Charlestown. The 11th race is at 1 1/8 miles. It's $1 million. And we've seen some big horses over the years in this race. And of course, we'd be remiss if we didn't mention Art Collector, who passed away last week after falling ill and laminitis, and just a tough loss for the racing industry to see Art Collector pass away last week. He's the 2-time defending champion of the Charlestown Classic, winning the race the past 2 years. The baton will be passed, unfortunately, to another runner on Friday night under circumstances that we would rather not have. But certainly a horse is going to get an opportunity for $1 million payday in this race, Jeff. And it does not have some of those superstars like we saw in Art Collector, a horse who could win a Pegasus World Cup, Game On Dude, some of the other shared belief we've seen come through here at Charlestown when he had his misfortune. We've seen some megastars in this race over the years. This one looks like a very solid race. It looks a lot like the Cornhusker from Prairie Meadows, and it's a very solid race. And for $1 million, somebody's going to get their career topper in this one.
And I think it might be a horse coming out of the Cornhusker, the Prairie Meadows race, a very fast, strong race. It was a race that Giant Game won, and he's here. He had a race after that. They tried him in the Whitney, which was probably not the wisest thing, and he was beaten 11th length against Wada Barrio and Zandon and Cody's Wish. I don't think he really needed that. But if you go back to his Cornhusker race, a race in which he was game in victory, beating Skippy Longstocking, I think that's the key race here, and I think the winner will be one of those two. Now, Skippy Longstocking has the benefit of not having run in the Whitney. I think that's a good thing. He's fresh since early July. He's training really well. And he's the kind of horse that kind of advertises himself when he's breezing. I mean, at this stage, he's trying to stay with his workmate, and his workmate just can't catch up. And it's not because Skippy Longstocking is being urged. He's going to draw off and with authority gallop out very strong. This tells me that he's doing well. And his race in the Cornhusker was good. He also gets a little bit of a weight break in terms of his comparisons with Giant Game, a couple of pounds, no big deal, but it's better than nothing, I guess. And at 1 1/8 miles, Safi Joseph sends his horse out. He's kind of an in and outer, and he wins, and then you can't find him. But when he's good, he's good enough to win. So I'm going to go with Skippy Longstocking to win the Charlestown Classic.
Interesting runner in here is last year's runner-up, the local West Virginia bred Muad'Dib for Jeff Runco, former jockey at Charlestown, turned longtime trainer, and just a win machine from his barn. And he's got 14 victories in 17 starts, all local at Charlestown. He was 4 lengths behind Art Collector last year, but beat some other name horses in the Classic when he ran so well. On numbers, he doesn't look as strong here at age 6, Jeff. He's running in the 70s on the Beyer scale compared to some of his 90s and higher 80s races, prior to this last year. But I'll tell you what, he's not a 7 furlong and a sprint kind of horse, and they've been running him short. The old 3 sprints to a route, stretching out to the 1 1/8. He's much better at the 1 16th, 1 1/8 trip at Charlestown, which is around 3 turns. This race will start on the back stretch and then come around and take, the 2 turns around. There's a shot here that Muad'Dib could come back and hit the board again. He was last year, and I think he could be every bit the same price because I think the numbers, running that 77 and 72, he's regressing in his buyers, short prices, just barely getting there in those sprints. I think the public's not going to have a lot to do with him, even with that gaudy record. So I think you're going to get every bit of the 12-1 again.
Could be. I mean, and there's several others in here that if you look at them, you could say, for example, O'Connor, the Chilean bred, he's coming out of a series of graded stakes. I mean, Doppelganger is a 4-year-old, but he's good right now for Brittany Russell, coming off a win at Delaware and earned a solid number. He's got buyers in the 90s. It puts him right there, and a few others in here that are competitive. This is, again, I chose the Prairie Meadows race, the Cornhusker, as the race I wanted to extract my selection from, and I ended up with Skippy, but again, this may not be the world's greatest race, but it's $1 million race, and it's very, very competitive. As a gambler, you like to see these, especially if you're playing exactas and tries, because you can get some big prices in there to make it worthwhile, even if they don't win.
Long series of stakes races, a big undercard. Like I mentioned, the Pink Ribbon Stakes is just fabulous. One of the best fields ever assembled at Charlestown on the undercard as well. So take a look at that one for the fillies. Everything on the main track, of course, at Charlestown. And when you're playing the races on Friday night at CT, we've got a special for you with First Bet and Express Bet. $10 money back special on all win bets. Any race, up to $10 back on your win bet in a race if your horse finishes 2nd or 3rd that you bet to win. So take that shot with the safety net and go after those races on Charlestown Classic night from West Virginia on Friday. Let's go to Saratoga on Saturday, where we've got 5 straight great ones. We just kind of set the GPS and just drift, Jeff. I mean, we don't have to think about bouncing around the country too much now as we hit Saratoga Saturday card. The first of the stakes races that we will handicap is the Forgo, and it's a 7 furlong sprint, grade 1 company here. We've seen Elite Power and Gunite, and we've seen them lock up with each other a couple times, and we get a thrill to see it again. A good sprint rivalry doesn't happen that often in thoroughbred racing, and we've got one here. Is it Elite Power again, just a head better in the Vanderbilt, or do you think Gunite can turn the tables here, or are we looking for somebody else?
Well, you remember when we handicapped the Vanderbilt, you know how much I think about Elite Power. And I was really afraid of Gunite. I thought if Elite Power is ever going to lose to Gunite, it would be under these conditions. Number one, it's 6 furlongs. Number two, it was a wet track. And I think Elite Power is the kind of horse that, while he can certainly win at 6 furlongs, we know that, but he doesn't have the good tactical speed from the gate. He has to make his run while in motion. That's usually going to work. But it doesn't always work when you have to run against a horse as good as Gunite. You can't really give that away and expect to blow by him. But Elite Power did, even though he didn't really blow by him. But it took him all of the 6 furlongs to get him. That was a great race for both colts. But this race is 7/8 now, and that allows Elite Power to kind of come out of the gate, settle, and build up his momentum. Now, there is a weight shift. I think it's 4 pounds, favoring Gunite. If that matters, we'll see. But I think at this 7 furlong distance, again, if Gunite was ever going to be the lead power, I thought it was going to happen last time, and it almost did.
Yeah. Gunite was getting 2 in that race, and the Vanderbilt now getting 6, as you said, a 4-pound weight shift. Let's go back and take a look at the Alfred Vanderbilt, where it was just kind of steady and chilly in the saddle for Irad Ortiz on Elite Power. He knew what he had under him, but like Jeff said, it took the whole stretch to get it done.
As the field approaches the quarter pole, and Gunite is traveling beautifully. On the outside, up is Awesome Aaron in the mix too. Far outside, Elite Power is starting to close. They're a furlong from the finish. Gunite, Elite Power kicks it into high gear. Dean delivers, drops back. They're coming to the 16th pole, and it's Gunite trying to fend off Elite Power, who's motoring like a big chestnut tank on the outside. And Elite Power and Gunite, Elite Power got him right on the money. Gunite ran his eyeballs out. Dean delivers third in 109.22 seconds.
You can almost see the noticeable point in the stretch where Ortiz said, holy cow, this horse isn't coming back. And it was like, wait a minute, we got to really get after it. And he had the horse under him to do it. Jeff, a lot of multi-race wagers are going to run in and out of these grade 1 stakes. We've got $25,000 in hit and split bonuses with Express Bet when you play those on our platforms. Not only do you get your pari-mutuel winnings, but you'll share up to $25,000 in additional winnings if you do so. So people putting tickets together for these pick 4s, pick 5s, pick 6s Saturday. Is this a 2 deep, or are you singling here when you got what looks to be a veritable match race?
Well, I wanted to single Elite Power, but realistically, you've got a 7 furlong race, and you've got one speed horse. Actually, he's not even that much of a speed horse, Gunite, and everybody else wants to kind of settle. So, if they want Gunite to open up early, they can. On the other hand, if you take a hold and slow it down, all you do is kind of bring the closers to you.
Yeah, go.
So if I'm riding Gunite, first of all, I don't think I could make the weight. But if I was riding Gunite, I might try to at the 3/8 pole just let them come get me and let them maybe wear themselves out. Maybe they won't punch it in, because if you reduce this race to a quarter of a mile sprint, and Elite Power's on top of you, he's going to beat you, right?
Right.
So that's what, and also there's, again, a little bit of a weight shift. So, and also, I mean, Gunite, 6 starts, 4 wins in 2 seconds at 7/8. I mean, we know he can handle the distance. I don't know what I'm going to do. I know that you hate doubling this race because you're like surrendering, waving the white flag. But on the other hand, you could see a scenario where Gunite gets to the lead, goes 23 in 1 1/4, and then throws in a 22 flat at you. And if he does that, he might be tough.
Depending on which sequence you're playing, maybe you get a chance to see some earlier races, how the track's playing, if that helps you at all, because you have one front runner, one closer between this 2 that you're trying to decide between. Maybe the way the track's playing can help you out a little bit at that stage. We'll get the same 7 furlong sprint distance in race number 9, our next handicapping task here on Travers Day at Saratoga in the Alan Jerkins Memorial. The Chief, the Giant Killer, well known for all of his great victories throughout the Naira circuit and at Saratoga. The Jerkins was the race formerly known as the King's Bishop for decades, traditional 7 furlong sprint race. This is the race, Jeff, that about every April a horse says, I can't go 1 1/8 for the Triple Crown races anymore. And everybody says, get them ready for the Jerkins. It used to be get ready for the King's Bishop. Well, they're all rerouted here now. So the best 7 furlong sprinters, milers that we have in the 3-year-old division are supposed to be lining up in this race. And we've got some good ones. Fort Bragg, Verifying, Arabian Lion, One in Vermilion, Drew's Gold, and New York Thunder. A cast of 6 in here that really doesn't have any fluff. These are all pretty legitimate horses, 6, 7 to a mile.
It's a salty race. I mean, first of all, you got Arabian Lion, who won the Woody Stevens. You have to admit he was pretty visually impressive that day. Not only was he impressive, but he earned a 109 buyer number, which is going to win a lot of Breeders' Cups. I'm looking at Arabian Lion's numbers, and he's gone from 70 to 92 to 98 to 103 to 109. I mean, I don't know where he's going to level off. But and in talking with Bob earlier in the meeting, the horse was doing really well. This was a gate work that took place actually August the 18th. He was tinkering with the idea of running him against older horses and the Bing Crosby to kind of kick him over because he hadn't been out since June 10th, and he wasn't really that thrilled with waiting and keeping the horse, off the track while waiting to run because he was doing so well.
Mm-hmm.
But we discussed it. He asked me what I thought, and I said, if you run him against older horses, you're nuts, which is all I basically had to say. And he says, you're right. So he decided to point for this race, and this is his last work. And in looking at this work, I mean, he looks terrific. He's going to work in 59 from the gate, but he's never asked to drop. And what I liked mostly about it was that he was going easy early without pulling him, and he was just very happy to stay with the other horse, and then kind of got chirped to at the 7/8 pole, and then opened up. And he's going in the 59-1. He's probably galloping out in 11 and change. So I mean, he was spot on. But having said that, New York Thunder is no joke. I mean, he is a very fast horse. I mentioned the rise in buyer numbers that Arabian Lion has had. Well, New York Thunder just earned a 110, which is 1 point higher than Arabian Lion's ever earned. Mm-hmm. Now, the question is, Jeremy, do you think New York Thunder can take that Amsterdam form and run back again against better horses, obviously, I would think, and then go that extra half furlong? That's why Arabian Lion is 2-1 in the morning line, but New York Thunder right with them is 5-2. This is a very, very intriguing matchup, these two.
Yeah, and it's a race where you've got speed on speed, right? They're both very quick. Not necessarily. I mean, I think New York Thunder may be a need-to-lead type, but Arabian Lion can sit a little bit like he did with Woody Stevens, but they're fast, you're right. I mean, they're not sitting behind anybody. I mean, if they want to sit, they can sit, but they don't have to. Fort Bragg is fast in here. One in Vermilion's very fast. I mean, I kind of think this race could come back to Verifying a little bit, who's really the middle distance horse in the race, who's cutting back to the 7/8 and doesn't necessarily. I think his best races are when he's in the mix. He doesn't want to be far out of this, but this race could come back because New York Thunder either runs off the screen again and he's all that, or Arabian Lion does the same kind of thing. But if they both fire their A race, you could see them taking each other out. I mean, because they are brilliant, right? They're coming off 109s, 110, like you're saying, on the buyer scale. These horses could balance if they lock each other up and just completely go at it, because it is 7/8 of a mile. So I'm interested in Verifying from off the pace in this particular spot on the cutback for Brad Cox. And, Justify Colt has been solid all year, second in the Bluegrass, the Tapit Trice. He was nothing in the Kentucky Derby. He set the pace there, but he's not, in a sprint race, he is not anywhere near the front against this group. And I think that could be a good thing in here. So I give Verifying a shot. Certainly a good horse to play second in the exacta, because a lot of times what you have in a race like this is Arabian Lion and New York Thunder go. One of them is really good and goes on and wins the thing, and the other one waves the flag, and then all of a sudden somebody comes along. Verifying wheeled in the exacta behind those two legitimate win contenders could be a good way to attack this race as well. And if you get the win price, if you're getting 7-8-1 on Verifying, which I think you will, there's a decent chance to take a shot on the win end there.
Well, I think the scenario that you expect or need to have happen won't happen. That's the thing, though, because Arabian Lion is drawn outside. He doesn't have to go with New York Thunder. If I'm Baffert and talking to Johnny V, or Johnny V's got his own ideas, you can't go. There's no percentage in going after New York Thunder. If you're going to beat him, you're going to beat him from the quarter pole home. Don't worry about him. Just let him go. You don't hook him early, because even if you go by him, that's going to take enough out of your horse to set it up for Verifying. So play it like you can outkick him. After we saw that, when I saw that gate work at Del Mar, just, what was it, 5 days ago, whatever it was, this horse can sit behind another horse. And when you turn him loose, he explodes. He will do to New York Thunder, I think, what Elite Power has been doing to his rivals, which is to say, kind of toy them, tease them, and then buy him at the final furlong. I don't think they're going to hook up until the quarter pole, if not maybe even later than that. But if they do hook up, then you got the right idea with Verifying. Absolutely. We've seen this happen in this kind of race. Deep closers can win it. Absolutely, they can win this race if the speed horses do each other in.
I still remember Ghost Sapper trying to get there from off the pace in this race. It was the what was that, about 2003, I guess 2004. No,
Mhm.
3, because 4 he was in the Breeders' Cup. But yeah, 2003. Ghost Sapper was one of those from off the pace and just couldn't quite get there with the big rally. We've seen some big closers have some success in this race over the years. We will find out on Saturday. How the race is won and how the race is run will probably determine how it's won. That's the H. Allen Jerkins Memorial, formerly, of course, the King's Bishop. To the Ballerina we go. We've had some fun talking about the first 2 sprints at Saratoga. This one's the best of them all, Jeff. I mean, there's really nothing between this race and, say, a Breeders' Cup filly and mare sprint. Maybe you get a 3-year-old stepping up to take on the elders. Maybe that makes it a little more interesting. But when Matarea, Mary Quite Contrary, Dr. B, Wicked Halo, Echo Zulu, Caramel Swirl, and Goodnight Olive are in the starting gate. Fantastic edition of the Ballerina. Grade 1 here for 7 furlongs. The Breeders' Cup filly mare sprint is going to determine the champion at the end of the year, but this is going to determine the favorite for that race.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned this looks like the Breeders' Cup filly and mare sprint. It is, because this is what happened last year. I mean, the only difference is Goodnight Olive beat Echo Zulu at Keeneland last November. But Echo Zulu was a 3-year-old and had been started and stopped on. I don't think she was quite as good then as she is now. Right. Now she's untouchable, I think, the way she ran her last race. She won the honorable miss. She just accelerated, 1 eased up, earned a 112 Beyer number, which is so far superior to what Goodnight Olive has ever run. It's like Echo Zulu has just raced past her, even without actually facing her. I mean, numbers-wise, Echo Zulu is now considerably faster than Goodnight Olive has ever been. And while I terribly admire Goodnight Olive, and I think 7/8 is probably her best distance, she's won 6 out of 7, so I guess I could safely say that at that distance. But Echo Zulu, the other thing about Echo Zulu is, look at the field. Who's going to run with her? Who's going to make her go 21 and change?
That's the key. She's just
nobody.
Nobody. Yeah.
So it looks like a match race. It looks like a 2-horse race. I think it's a 1-horse race. I think it's Echo Zulu.
I agree. And if she runs back to this one, I think they're all running for second.
They're at the top of the stretch. Echo Zulu hugs the rail and goes on strongly. 44-2, putting away Frank's Rocket. Dr. B in the center trying to get into second. They come to the 16th pole, and it's a sizzling performance for Echo Zulu. What an effort. Echo Zulu canters in by 8 widening lengths. Dr. B second, Frank's Rocket third.
This is our Express Bet Race of the Week. So if you want my full analysis on the race, you can get the email newsletter sent to your email box each and every week. Sign up for the email list at the Express Bet and on the First Bet app. I'll tell you, I took Echo Zulu, and I'm going to try to get Goodnight Olive out of the exact in here. The two of them together is not really, anything interesting to me from a gambling standpoint at all. And Goodnight Olive, while 3 for 4, or 2 for 3 this year, none of the 3 races she's run has been up to what we expect to see from her. I don't know that she has the wake up in her, and I think she's going to be an underlay price in here. So I gave a couple shots in here to Caramel Swirl from off the pace. Bill 5 stakes wins, I think, at the meet. He just had an incredible meet at Saratoga. Caramel Swirl, I don't think, has to improve that much to get into the number. And I gave Mary Quite Contrary a chance in here. In the honorable miss, it was just a 4-horse field. She's a determined closer, and the speed just went out and just crushed him. You saw the video there. Mary Quite Contrary didn't run a step. Sometimes in a sprint race, that's not a bad thing, because sprints are really hard on these horses. They really get after themselves, and it's hard to repeat good efforts. So she's coming off basically a gallop around workout, and I think she could bounce back. So Mary Quite Contrary, I was very impressed with her throughout the course of this winter and spring at Gulfstream. I think she's got a chance to be on the bottom of the exact in here. So I'm taking on top Echo Zulu to just pull away like she has. And then the closers in here, Caramel Swirl, Mary Quite Contrary. I'm going to try to get them in on the back end of the exacta. Big fan of Goodnight Olive. She's one of my favorite horses in training, but 3 starts already this year, Jeff. It's not like once we're like, okay, well, maybe next time. Maybe next time. She's run 3 times and just hasn't looked like she did last year to me.
She's made hard work of it in all of her races. I know she had trouble 2 races back and probably could have, if not should have won. But even if she runs, that's the thing is, even if you go back and find her very best race on numbers, it doesn't come close to Echo Zulu. on her best race. And you're thinking maybe she's not even have that anymore. So if you even concede that she's going to run her best race, I still don't see her beating Echo Zulu.
We've probably talked her into the winner's circle by 4, but that's the way it goes. When you handicap, you got to take a stand, especially when you're looking at 2 short prices. You can't go in. And this is a situation where I think it's a single in the multi-race wagers. Echo Zulu, to me, would be a single. I would assume the same the way that you've set it up as well. Let's go to a challenging turf race next. The Sword Dancer. We get away from the 3 sprints at Saratoga to 1.5 miles on the turf. This race at 1.5 miles on the grass, $750,000. Grade 1 company in the Sword Dancer. A lot of international interest in here. If the turf course comes up soft, of course, I always say handicap the parentheses. Look for those horses that are internationally bred or internationally raced. They usually have a little more experience on the soft they're going. Stone Age being one of those, Jeff. And Stone Age is a horse I know that you've got some interest in here.
Well, I picked him on top. I don't like 6-5, but he is training well for his first start since February. They took him overseas, and I don't think he was at his best then, but he looks like he's at his best now. And you look at his form, and you know that he's good enough. The only thing about him is I was kind of surprised about this. He's earned $1.1 million. He's won 2 races. He's 2 for 15, So I don't know whether you can trust him. But who else? Where's the alternative here? I mean, it would be kind of neat to see Channelmaker win again, but of course, he won the Bowling Green. Rebels Romance tripped and fell at the top of the stretch. I think he would have won that race by 10 if he had stayed on his feet. I mean, it'd be kind of neat to see a $40,000 maiden claimer win it, and that would be Pioneering Spirit for Linda Rice. He's really gotten good. He's won 4 in a row. I could see maybe him rise to the occasion, because actually rising to the occasion against this group isn't that rising that high anymore,
Right.
I mean, it's not like going out and beat proven grade 1 horses. So I could see him at 8-1 at least get a piece of it. But by default, I'm going to trust Chad Brown to have him ready, and I don't think the ground will bother him. And if you go back and look at his very best races, I mean, he really shouldn't lose this race. 2 for 15, notwithstanding. But again, what kind of gamble is there at 6-5? Probably not much.
Several of these horses are coming off disappointing efforts. Again, you have Channelmaker coming off a career resurgence last time, where he got away on the front end with an easy pace and went all the way. And then Pioneering Spirit, the horse who's 4 for 4 since moving to the turf. Irad Ortiz teaming up with Linda Rice. Strong connections there, obviously. Yeah. I think I looked at the stats the other day. Irad has 11 stakes wins at the meet. No other jockey's got more than 5. I mean, he is really excelling in the big money races. But, if this one wins, it'll be, a dream meet for Linda Rice, getting even dreamier. This is not the kind of race you expect Linda Rice, 1.5 miles on the turf, to have her best kind of stock, but this horse is doing awfully well right now. We'll see. In a field that has some names to it, you've got Aiden O'Brien, you've got Chad Brown, but they don't necessarily have horses that are coming in with great resumes, in recent outings or even off their last start. So chance you can get something here. I think among the races that we're looking at for the pick 4s and pick 5s, this is the one that I have the least amount of confidence in, and the one where I read the farthest.
I agree.
Let's go next to the Travers. It's the Midsummer Derby, $1.25 million, 1.25 miles at Saratoga. They're going to paint the canoe after the race in the colors of the winners. Whose colors will it be? Is it going to be the blue and orange of Rapoli Stable and Forte? Are we going to the pink and blue with Arcangelo, a Blue Rose Farm? I mean, there's a couple different ways you could look at this, with 3 Triple Crown individual race winners and the 2-year-old champion in the mix. But, Jeff, I think the 2 I mentioned, Forte and Arcangelo, are probably the 2 that decide it.
I would think so. I really do. I did pick Arcangelo to win the Belmont Stakes, but not because I was trying to be a wise guy or anything like that. I really thought he was an up-and-coming type of horse, and he ran such a great race, Jeremy, because while he got through inside and all the ground, the ground loss guys are like, oh, he got safe ground, all that sort of stuff. The point is, he was put in the position of making the top before the quarter pole. That was a very long run in for him. He wasn't allowed to sit, make one run. Once he committed to go inside under the far turn, there was no more breathers. And yet he stayed on well and galloped out great. This is a really, really good colt, and he's training well. I have a new appreciation for his Belmont, because I saw the track feed, and I didn't get that same feel when I was watching the Fox, viewpoint, where it's all over the place. This
Right.
one, you can really see that he had to shrug off some sharp horses, some fast horses, and he did it in style.
Let's take a look back. John Embrial on the call from Naira. Arcangelo's winning the Belmont Stakes.
National Treasure challenged here on the inside by Arcangelo, and the two of them are heads apart. Tapatrice on the outside in third. Angel of Empire being asked for more. Then comes Hit Show and Forte with Il Miracolo. The field is in the stretch in the Belmont Stakes, and Arcangelo has now taken over. Arcangelo is in front. National Treasure back running in second. Then Hit Show, Tapatrice, Forte, and Angel of Empire. It is Arcangelo with the lead. Arcangelo in front, trying to hold on for the final 50 yards, and it's Arcangelo to win the Test of the Champion. It is Arcangelo, and it is a monumental victory for trainer Jenna Antonucci. And what a month for jockey Javier Castellano. He won his first Derby with Mage. He wins his first Belmont Stakes with Arcangelo.
As you mentioned, the gallop out, he was all alone in there. A lot of times you think a rallying horse like Forte may have went by in the gallop out just the way the race flow would go. But no, it was the horse on the front who was much the best, even going through the wire and into the clubhouse turn. Arcangelo is going to be very strong in this particular spot. Javier Castellano opts to ride him over Mage, the Kentucky Derby winner. Now, Luis Saez was to pick up the mount on Mage, but an incident in a spill, broken collarbone this week for Luis Saez. So he is out 3 to 5 weeks, according to his agent, Kieran McLaughlin, the former trainer. So now in replacing Luis Saez, we've got Flavian Pratt to pick up the mount on the Kentucky Derby winner, Mage. Give us your thoughts on Mage coming into this race, Jeff.
I think he'll run well, really well. He had a right not to be 100% for the Haskell. He loomed a threat against Go Rocket Ride. He lost a little bit of his steam there and finished second, but Go Rocket Ride is no joke. He's a good colt.
Right.
And I think Mage will benefit greatly from that race. And I think he'll run well. I don't think he's intrinsically as good as Arcangelo. I think Arcangelo is just a better colt. Not by much, but I think he's a better colt. And Forte, he's got the rail. It's not really where you want to be with him leaving the gate. He's still gets shuffled back. He doesn't really have any gate speed, and he's going to have to come around horses. And looking at this race, National Treasure is going to make the lead here.
Yeah.
Blinkers off. They're going to try to slow him down. And I think Arcangelo is going to draft into a good spot. And I don't see a fast pace here. Do you, Jeremy? I don't know.
No, I think National Treasure, maybe Scotland from the outside will try to kind of sit second. Arcangelo should be right there in the pocket, saving ground. And it should be an excellent trip for him. Tapatrice is going to be out towards the back. Forte with the blinkers will probably be a little closer like he was in the Jim Dandy than some of the other races we've seen. But at what cost, right? With blinkers on and from the rail, you don't want to go sending him out of there to hold some kind of position because he may not come back to you necessarily.
Right.
So in this case, let him go a little bit, and he might end up being, back in his mid-pack style in this particular race because of the rail. They don't want to use too much early. And I don't think anybody's going to respect National Treasure. The way he backed up in the Belmont, I think he's going to get a Preakness-like kind of trip again, where I still don't think at 1.25 miles, and this is a better race than the Preakness was in terms of the depth of competition. I don't think it's still going to matter, but I don't think anybody's going to start to get nervous midway down the backstretch that, we let National Treasure go. I think they're going to let him go and they're going to come to him, and it should be a great trip for Arcangelo in here. I would not be surprised if Forte wins the race. I just think it's got to be one of those two the way it shakes out for me, and I know they're the two favorites. There's not a whole lot there. I've 6-5 and 5-2 or something like that in the morning line. Arcangelo a second choice. He's getting a lot of talk. He's getting a lot of talk, and I will not be surprised if the odds are pinched a little tighter than people think. I'm not saying that he's going to be favored over Forte, but if they're only a point apart on the tote board, I won't be surprised.
I wouldn't either. I think he'll go 5-2. And let's not forget, Arcangelo is the son of Arrogate, and it's not like we're expecting him to peter out here. Every race he runs, he's supposed to get better and better and better, which he has. Yeah. And I don't know if we've even seen the best of him yet. He's training well. If you go back and watch his works on XBTV, he's just floating through the breezes. He looks like a horse ready to run kind of like what Arrogate did when he won the Travers.
Yeah, right.
So,
That's where I thought you were going with it. You said he's by Arrogate, and I'm thinking to myself, he was Secretariat in the Travers when he won 59 and change track record.
Broke the track record, fastest mile a quarter in the history of Saratoga.
Yeah,
So
yeah, I mean, if he taps any of that Arrogate success in the Travers, then Forte or not, it won't matter. And look, he can win the 3-year-old championship. Any one of the 3 Triple Crown race winners adding the Travers, salt the title away.
Sure.
Forte winning it, salt the title away. Unless Mage were to come back and win the Breeders' Cup Classic. If you can add a Kentucky Derby and a Breeders' Cup Classic, it's going to be hard to deny you a 3-year-old championship. But that's the only other scenario if Forte wins this race where he would be not denied the crown. So it's winner take all for those 4. We've seen this, though, in history now. Maybe history is on Forte's side. There's been 3 or 4 times where we've had 3 different Triple Crown winners all show up in the Travers. And when it happens, somebody else wins the race. The last time it was West Coast for Bob Baffert winning it back in 2017, I think it was, when Always Dreaming and won the Derby that year. Cloud Computing, and then the Belmont winner was Tappert, I believe, or one of the Pletchers. And so if it's somebody not from the Triple Crown series, then this could get really weird if it's not Forte.
Right. No, that's for sure. So anyway, great edition of the Travers. This is rarely do you see a one race saying this is going to decide it.
Yeah,
this is going to decide it. I'm pretty sure.
Let's take our last handicapping journey for the weekend to Del Mar on Saturday. It's the Grade 2 Pat O'Brien $250,000 sprint here, of course. Breeders' Cup at Santa Anita this year on the West Coast, and we always love the California sprinters when it comes to the Breeders' Cup sprint. So this is going to be a very important race, and the way horses lay off these days, you could certainly see a horse just come out of the Pat O'Brien, shut it down, and we'll see you again at the Breeders' Cup. It's that time of year, late August, where this can happen on the calendar. Who do you like in the Pat O'Brien? Which way are you leaning?
Well, I like the lead power in New York, and Anarchist ran second in the True North to him and ran great, and then was beaten ahead in the Bing Crosby. Now this is going 7/8, and he had a hard race in that race, beaten ahead by the Chosen Vron, but he's trained well since. This was a breeze August 13th, so he looks happy. He's just kind of messing around here, and he's still going in 47 and change. So obviously he's doing well. That looked like a 50 or a 49 and change. So he's doing very well. He's only had 11 starts. It's not like he's some beat up old horse. Now, granted, he's got 2 wins in 7 seconds, but he tries to win. He's just been faced with some tough horses. I don't know what the combined record of Elite Power and the Chosen Vron is, the 2 of them, but
pretty
those
good.
are the 2 horses that has beaten the Anarchist. They're probably like something like, I don't know, 14 or 15 out of 19 together, something like that. So I'm not going to hold that against him. Numbers are good. Style is good for 7 furlongs, and he's training well. And I just think maybe has an upside that some of these others don't.
Another one I want to mention in here is a horse who's got a lot of potential. He's made a massive increase in his 3 starts. His name is Sir Atticus. He lost his debut, and now he's won 2 straight for trainer John Sadler. He runs for the estate of Jerry Moss, the founder of A&M, co-founder of A&M Records, the owner of Zenyatta, Giacomo, a lot of great horses over the years who passed away earlier this week. So certainly won't be a dry eye in the house at Del Mar if Sir Atticus is able to come away with the Pat O'Brien on Saturday. What do you make of this, John? I think I might have said John Sadler. John Sheriff's training here, of course. Sheriff's and Moss teaming up. What do you think of Sir Atticus and Mike Smith in this particular spot? It's a big step up in class, but he's getting good fast.
He is. I've liked this colt all along. He was beaten in his debut, but he did something weird. He came out of the gate and he started like I think he thought it was a rodeo or something. He started bucking and losing his action. But once he figured it out, he finished well. And then he comes back and he wins the maiden race. He was 5-1 that day. If I knew he was going to put his head down and run, I would have loved him that day, but I didn't know what we were going to get.
Yeah.
Then he comes back at Del Mar and he wins again in a good allowance race, a good first level allowance. The number continues to rise. But this really is a step up, and he's done the right thing. He's gone from a maiden to a first level, and now he's going from a maiden to a first level to a horse that's been competitive Elite Power. There's a massive jump up there in class.
Right.
I think he'll run well. I don't see him as being able to win. It's not something that I would do with him. If I own him, I would have taken my time and build him up and maybe pointed point for the next winner. If you really want to get a horse to mature and be ready to run the best races as a 4-year-old, you don't need this race. This race is going to be there the next month, a month after, somewhere, you know. And it's kind of like I don't like to see it because I'm kind of conservative with my horses. I tend to want to take every step at the right time, and I wish that Sir Atticus would be given that plan. Now, if he goes out and wins, then I tip my hat. Sure, but I don't think I would do it if he were mine.
That's a wrap for our handicapping for the weekend. Jeff's selections on the 8 stakes races from Charlestown, Saratoga, and Del Mar. Again, we want to remind you the 6th and final week of the Fun in the Sun weekly contest. $125 to play at expressbet.com. $25 entry fee. All the entry fees are paid back in prize money. $100 of your $125 will be bet in $10 win bets. Fun in the Sun will be the last 5 races from Saratoga, the first 5 races on the card from Del Mar. Qualify with the top 5 finish this Saturday, and you'll be in the final table a week from Saturday, playing for what looks to be about $17,000 plus in cash. So take your chance. Top 5 finishers this week will get those final 5 seats. Only 30 players will be at the final table when you're playing for more than 17 grand. And also the $800 Travers Day Challenge is on Saturday at expressbet.com in the tournament section. That tournament hosted by Monmouth Park will include Monmouth and Saratoga races. But if you want to play online, you can do so through ExpressBet. Again, $800 for the entry fee for the Travers Day Challenge. Those races, Monmouth and Saratoga. Be sure to check out the tournament section at expressbet.com for all the details and to register for those contests. See which races specifically are involved. We hope that you have a successful Travers weekend. We hope we get good weather. We hope we get safe trips. That hasn't always been the case this summer at Saratoga, but on a big day like this, we're really crossing our fingers for the best in thoroughbred racing to show itself, because we've got some of the best horses in the game running this weekend at Saratoga and some of the best at Charlestown as well. We've got some really good horses running at both of those venues. It all starts tonight, Friday night at Charlestown, and then rolls over Saturday at Saratoga with the early post time 13 race card at the Spa. Jeff, you can play late at Charlestown, take a little cat nap, and get up and get ready for Saratoga.
13 races. I got to start now. I mean, I got to get going, and it takes me forever to do 13 races and then ride them up. But again, we'll have the full card analysis for every day at Saratoga. And then, of course, the same at Del Mar. So I got a lot of work to do, but it's getting towards the end of the month. College football starts on Saturday, so that's kind of fun. I got to work that in too. I don't know where I'm going to do all this time to do all this work, but I'll figure it out. But anyway, great racing on Saturday, and a lot of these horses we might not see again till the Breeders' Cup. So watch closely and enjoy and make some money.
The blog section at expressbet.com and news.first.com are where you can get all of Jeff's analysis every day for Saratoga and Del Mar. Also this weekend, some extra handicapping help. Eddie Olczyk will have his hat trick video for his 3 best bets at Saratoga for Travers Day. John White's got his Travers analysis up on the website as well. And if you're playing that Charlestown card on Friday night, Frank Carulli, who used to be the track handicapper and morning line maker there before he went to Maryland, before he retired to Vegas, Frank is back at Charlestown, his old stomping grounds. He's got to look at the pick 4 tonight at Charlestown on Classic Night to look at as well at ExpressBet and First Bet. So on behalf of all the team that puts the content together here and our partner Jeff Siegel, I'm Jeremy Plonk. Have a great weekend. Good luck at Charlestown. Good luck at Saratoga and beyond. And we will talk to you on Tuesday on a fun edition of It's Official to wrap it all up. Good luck, everybody.